What you are listening to is real. The participants are not actors. They are actual litigants with a case pending in the squared circle. Both parties have agreed to dismiss their cases and have their disputes settled here in our forum, the Turnbuckle Debate.
Everyone, welcome back to the Turnbuckle Debate. My name is Sneed.
I'm Chad.
And you'll be serving hard times because the big bow man is here, baby.
And Ace is the place for your insightful wrestling takes, man. We're all regulars here in the tavern. No guests today.
No guests.
No.
We had a guest flake on us last minute, so we're the tavern's coming strong.
I was wondering what the problem was, and I was not in my spot.
Yeah. I had to switch your spot.
Off.
You're always top left. It threw me off a little bit.
Threw me off. But yeah, it's nice to have the boys together.
Yeah, we've never had this combination on the debate, so it should be fun.
Yeah, the beautiful part about it is like any combination of the Turnbuckle Tavern makes for interesting conversation, but just as entertaining every show. It's awesome.
Exactly.
Because we're the Tavern boys, and they're trying to make it.
So normally this is where we would let the guests show off, but why don't you guys go ahead and show off? What do you guys got going on, man?
So you guys can catch me Thursdays live, 7 p.m. Eastern on the Honor Society, covering all things ROH. We certainly have a great show every single week. So this Thursday coming up, make sure you guys head on over to turnbuckletavern.com to get all the information. Follow us on anything, any of these platforms you want to watch us, Twitch, YouTube, also Twitter, Facebook. We're all over the place. And do not forget, Fridays at 8 p.m., we are talking all things 1996 WCW, myself and Mike Belcaster, shot in nostalgia. It's been such an awesome time. This week, we'll be going back to just 2 more Nitros. Episode 5 will be airing, I think, in a couple days. So make sure you guys check it out. And we're having a great time. Come along the ride.
It's a great show. Love it.
2 great shows. Yep, absolutely. Of course, I've been here. I'm a debate specialist. Been here quite many times. You can find me, of course, comingdowntheaislepod.com. Find everything coming down the aisle. I just got a new TikTok. At coming down. I'm learning TikTok. Not doing dances though. Nobody wants to see that. Of course, you can find everything, like I said, at coming down the aisle. On Instagram, _, on Twitter, but also, more importantly, you can find me, the star of the RAWDOWN, the man who carries those 2 jabronis, young Anthony and Marco, on their back every single week on the RAWDOWN here on the Turnbuckle Tavern YouTube channel. And that's, of course, 9 o'clock Central, 10 o'clock Eastern time. And then if you miss it, the live stream, that's okay. We got the podcast form that drops Wednesday mornings.
I got to say, I'm happy that you and I could put our differences aside here. I know that you and I have our heat from the RAWDOWN. I was the former champion. I lost it to another outsider, the OG Fig Kid, and I think we both have a common enemy in him. We're trying to get it back. But I don't feel like you'll ever let me back on the picks because I think I'm just going to take away the title again.
Don't get this twisted. To quote my favorite Macho Man, Randy Savage, I hate your guts.
Isn't it a little ironic that Tom's not here tonight, though?
I know. It's weird.
He's off celebrating with the RAWDOWN Championship somewhere.
Right.
Champagne, some women, and no clothes are missing off of him right now. He's just all over the place.
He's that guy that wears that belt everywhere.
You just saw Michael's picture. He's
never
posed with
takes
the
it
belt.
off.
Airport, walks through the airport with it on.
So you mean this?
Yeah. So I looked at the database, the debate database, and Ace, this is your 3rd appearance, and this is Boney's 10th appearance.
Boom.
Wow.
10 appearances by the Bonester.
Just like WrestleMania 10. Let's Owen Hart, Bret Hart this shit. Let's go.
We need the picture of Triple H in the Elimination Chamber where he's all blooded up, holding up the 10 when his 10th World Championship with Boney photoshopped over it.
We got some good ones. We're kind of revisiting a topic that we kind of touched on a couple weeks ago, but there'll be a new spin on it.
Yeah.
But we have some good topics tonight.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm surprised you didn't bring it up though, that you're not, he might become the staple though. He's the Elmer's glue though.
Yeah, he's Elmer's glue for sure.
Hey,
after 10 appearances though, you might be a staple.
Yeah.
just like on my first appearance, we're the office products. Here comes a glue. Here comes the staple. Organizing your papers.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I guess it's time to get down to business. You guys ready to do it?
Let's do it.
All right, let's go. First topic of the evening. Will Andrade or Malakai Black ever be AEW World Champions?
Ooh. I'm going to say just real quick, just off the top of my head, Malakai, yes. Andrade, no. Although I think both should be champions. I think they should be held as main event guys. I think both right now, I'm not super stoked on how they've been handled since they've came to the company, especially Andrade. I've liked the tone and the vibe and the atmosphere they've created with Malakai, but I think the story hasn't really grabbed me yet. He hasn't been in one of those monumental stories. But Andrade, man, he's in Miro arcade game territory for me. I'm not vibing on Andrade. I hate this Andrade family office.
Yep.
And unfortunately, I think Andrade is going to become one of those guys that eventually becomes disgruntled with the way he's being handled before. And I think he leaves. I think he will leave. I think I could see him going to AAA. I could see him going back to WWE at some point. I think it's a shame because I don't think WWE used him right. I don't think AEW has used him right. I think they botched it when I know Chavo had prior engagements. I believe he was working on heels. I know he does a lot of Hollywood work. But man, when it was just Andrade and Chavo, I was all in. And then this Matt Hardy connection, I kind of lost favor with that whole thing. But yeah, I say Malakai will eventually will be a world title holder. And I think Andrade never will.
I'm gonna say. Sorry, I'm gonna say just real quick. I guess I agree to that point. There's gonna be a lot of work needed to get Malakai to that point for me at this point. But I'm on the RAWDOWN we have the hot take button. Hot take, get your hot takes. If I was to do one right now, Andrade is making WWE look smart for letting him go, to be quite honest with you. Yeah. And the reason why I say that is if you look at the other talent that have kind of most of the other talent anyways, and I say this about a lot of talent so far, and you could throw Keith Lee into that situation, to be honest with you right now. You could throw some few other names. I have to sit there and think about it, but at some point you have to take responsibility for how you're going to be presented on TV. You can't just be like, okay, what do you got for me? It's almost like if I was to go to my boss and say, oh, I don't have any work. So what do I do? And he's going to send me home. Right. So, at some point he's got to take some responsibility as far as what's happening, with him creatively. And especially kind of don't really have an excuse in AEW. They give you some liberties there, to be honest with you. So, at some point you gotta, if it's not working, change it. Do something. If the crowd's not reacting, I don't know if he's just not listening to the crowd or what's happening. But I don't see it. To answer the question, I don't see Andrade at all touching even the TNT title, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. Really strong points there. I think Malakai does hold the championship. I think he will be champion by sometime in the fall. I think right now they are booking him. I know they're putting him on the back burner, but House of Black is being booked as more of an Undertaker type of character that doesn't need the championship. But I don't think he's been booked in a weak way at all. I think he's someone that has been booked strong. I mean, the one loss to Cody is what it comes to mind, I guess, is a bad loss, but everything else has been Malakai looks like $1 million when he's in the ring, and we don't see him nearly enough. I don't think Andrade right now, I agree with you, everything you guys are saying about Andrade. I think the only chance he ever has in touching the main event in AEW is if a pairing of Charlotte comes over to AEW in some miracle, bringing her over, because I think that pairing could be a main event type of pairing. I think his eyes are elsewhere, and I think his priorities have changed since he's been in AEW, and I think he was so desperate to get out of the situation in WWE, and people were excited to bring back that El Idolo character that was showing itself in NXT. I mean, those matches he had in NXT, the one that comes to mind was in the one in Philly before the Royal Rumble. What an epic match. He looked like the emergence of Shawn Michaels or
who was
one
that
of those
against?
guys.
Gargano?
Johnny Gargano.
Man,
I was going to bring that up.
That was a coming out party for him. And I think a big piece as well, he's enormous now. The dude is so jacked. He had to change his whole work rate style that he can't do. I mean, he can do a lot of the things he used to do, but it doesn't come off the same way anymore because he's huge. I mean, the guy is enormous and good for him. He hit the gym, but that changes who you are as a character, and he doesn't present the same way to me anymore. But it will take a miracle to get Andrade to that level. And is it impossible? No. I mean, it just takes a couple weeks of strong booking to get someone there. Will people care about him? That's a different story. For Malakai, I think it's coming. I think we just have to be patient. He's one of those guys that kind of got pushed to the back burner because of Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson coming in. But I don't think that Tony Khan forgot about him. And he's shown when he's on TV, he can grip you. And we'll talk about House of Black later, but their segments are must-see TV for me. And Malakai on the mic, he has every skill necessary to be world champion, just a matter of pulling the trigger.
Sneed.
So I think I agree with what all of you have said. I don't think Andrade becomes a champion, but somebody asked him recently what was missing to make him a champion in AEW. And what he said was, what is missing? Time. Give me a little bit of time. And all the Latinos will have that gold. That gold will be for me, and it will be for all of you. I think the time statement applies to Malakai. I don't think it applies to Andrade. I think, to your point, Chad, what you said, I think he's going to get fed up unless Charlotte comes over and they are able to book him in that main event style with Charlotte when if she comes over. I don't see him being a champion unless that happens. I think that's the only way.
When you have a significant other in another company and they're being treated and handled from a storytelling perspective a little bit better than you are, that breeds the grounds for dissension.
Yeah.
You know, like you're going to look at your company and be like, why? Well, they're treating her well. Why aren't they? That's what you go home to every day. These are real people. What are the conversations Charlotte and Andrade are having in their kitchen at night every time, you know, when they're talking about the workplace? That's what I worry about, breeding this dissension. As far as like time, you guys talk, you know, you talk about Andrade takes time. Malakai takes time, all of this. Do you think we are impatient as fans? Because Boney, you talked about, you know, Keith, they haven't been handling Keith Lee. They haven't been handling Malakai the way we want. They haven't been handling Andrade the way we want. When Miro came in, people were complaining. They finally corrected course on Miro. Not everyone can be top guys at the same time. When you're juggling roster, and that is a con to the beauty of having a roster like this. The pro is we're getting all these fresh matchups. All these matches seem fresh. We're getting first time matches against people that we never thought would match up week to week, like phenomenal booking just from a in-ring match perspective. But the downside to that is not everyone can be on top. You know, Keith Lee and Swerve have been having a pretty fun mid-card storyline with Team Taz, but it does leave a little to be desired. But I wonder if that's just, you know, there's not enough time for them on TV to really go deep into those storylines. So it becomes like a backstage promo in a match and an interference in a match. So it's like, are we impatient as fans? Do we need to give people like Andrade and Malakai time to kind of get to that point? Because there's a lot of people in line for that AEW world title.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, too, don't forget, Charlotte she's selling that broken arm injury. That means Andrade is going to be out as well. So what's going to happen with him in the time? And there's a roster that's hungry to be in the main event scene. And chances are Andrade can be passed by unless he takes, like Boney was saying, take initiative and some momentum behind your character. Don't forget, this is the same wrestling world, not the same company that Kofi Kingston, Xavier Woods, and Big E got over a positivity preaching gimmick. If you want to get it over, you have to invest yourself.
Yeah.
So the presentation of Andrade is absolutely amazing with the mask and him coming out look like a killer wearing, the pants. He looked great. Presentation wise, looks like $1 million, best shape of his life. But it's about, he doesn't seem invested. It feels like he's in a mid-card feud and he's just like passing the time. And I know that he can do so much more than that. And maybe it's a personality thing. Maybe he just can't get invested. Maybe it's a conflict of decision making in the back, or maybe it is what you guys talked about. Maybe it's the Charlotte thing because she's in his ear saying you should be booked better, you should be the main guy. And also, don't forget, Ric Flair is his father-in-law now, so I know he's probably in his ear, and we know how erratic he can be on social media. Imagine what he's like in real life.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah,
all that stuff. So I mean, I love Andrade and I love what he did in NXT, but right now, and sad to say, I was so excited to see him come to AEW. I feel like I wouldn't care if he got released, and that's such a weird thing to say 6 months ago.
Yeah, and you were going to just real quick too. I just don't think Andrade's that good, to be honest with you.
I think the style changed though, man. Like I think he's wrestling a big dude style now, and his moveset is conducive to be a lucha guy.
His matches are still pretty good.
They're good
with his in-ring. I just have a problem with his character and the way the stories he's involved in. They're boring.
Hey, look,
to take it to that next level though.
Right.
He's not going to be a champion until he changes out of those pants. Now, that's something I will disagree.
I agree with you.
The pants suck.
Those pants in NXT he wore were amazing. Just pop those in.
Yeah.
Whatever he's wearing right now needs to go.
He's wearing corporate cane pants every time he's out in the ring. What are we doing?
Looks like he just got stepped off a Yankee field here, Yankee Stadium.
Yeah,
he's got done with the game of the Yankees. And you're just real quick to talk about that match in Philadelphia in NXT. Johnny Gargano was the one that made that match, not Andrade, and he's the one that made Andrade. So.
I mean, that is a strong thing to say, but I agree. Johnny Gargano is epic. That NXT run I can compare against any era of wrestling at any time. Gargano's NXT run was a golden era of wrestling. Like minor leagues are not. That was comparable to Shawn Michaels' run from 95, 96.
Oh, yeah.
That run for Gargano was some of the best of all time. He was churning out 5-star matches at every takeover.
Every time, yeah.
So we saw a golden age of match quality, and we didn't even know it was happening. It was AEW before AEW.
Takes tango, though, man. You can't sell Andrade down the river too much. Like, he shows up. Like, that's the thing. I just feel like, I think, Ace, you hit on something here. Like, he doesn't feel like he has that fire. Like, he doesn't feel like if he had this little story with Hardy Family Office and when he was feuding in the kind of what was the triangle situation he was in with Darby and who was the third? Sammy.
Yeah.
And they were trading those matches back and forth. Go in the back and be pushing for like, I want to cut this promo. I want to film this backstage segment. I want to do that. Like, I feel like that's what it takes you to get to that next level with story. Like if you're knocking on Tony Khan's door or Vince McMahon's door or Court Bauer's door or fucking Billy Corgan's door, if you're bothering the booker all the time about pushing to make your segments better, to do this, do that, that matters, man. If you're just taking what they give you, how's a booker going to feel about that? Like, oh, he's not passionate. He's just giving. He'll just take whatever we give him. Like, but if you're fighting for something better, like people talk about Stone Cold, he was a pain in the fucking ass during his run because every single thing they wanted to do with him, he'd be like, no, I don't like that. Let's do that. You know, he had a hand in what he wanted to do. And everybody says, yeah, but not everyone's Stone Cold. Stone Cold wasn't Stone Cold at that moment. No. Like he was pushing to become the legend that we know now. That when he was in the middle of that run, we were witnessing something special. but we're looking at it 20 some years removed.
He was ringmaster at one point.
He was ringmaster, and he was still like, I want more, and I don't feel that from Andrade.
And that's I hate to use this term, but that's what Vince always says. God damn, you gotta go out, grab the brass ring, you know. But I mean, it's some degree that's what it is. It's like just be brash, go after it. Don't be scared. If you want it, go get it.
And title shots are not the be all end all. We see that some of the best programs don't have any titles involved. MJF and CM Punk being a great example of it. And I know the storytelling behind that is so deeper than what Andrade's been getting, but it's also because MJF and Punk make you believe on the microphone.
Right.
Andrade has time on the microphone. He has the ability to have HFOs on our screen every single week, or the AFO at this point. It doesn't grab me. It's turn the channel, go get a drink, go to the bathroom. And that's because of the guys involved, not the storylines. Clearly, there's some investment on Tony Khan's part or whoever is booking this creative because they believe it can get over. But the guys are not executing it as well as it probably could be.
But Malakai grabs me.
Exactly. And
100%. He makes the max out of his time. He stretches. He gets 10 minutes on Dynamite almost every week. And it stretches. There's some weeks he's not even on there.
He gets a fucking minute segment, and I'm captivated. But the thing, and this will bridge into our second topic, but just to talk about the difference between Malakai and Andrade to me, when I see Malakai, as much as like people can say, oh, it's getting worn out with just the vignettes and the Julia Hart and things like that. When I watch those, I see someone who is invested in what he's doing. He has a vision for what he wants. He has a vision for how he wants to be portrayed, the vibe he wants to set, the tone he wants to set. I don't see that at all with Andrade. That's why, from a bookings perspective, when I threw out those names like Vince and Court Bauer and Billy and Tony and all of these bookers, like when you see someone like Malakai who's putting so much into him, you're like, okay, that guy could be a world champion because he fucking cares.
Right.
You just absolutely nailed it to a T, 100%. That is the difference right there, 100%.
And that'll take us into...
Yeah, that leads us into the second topic of the evening, which we'll go ahead and move into now, which is House of Black versus Judgment Day. Who is better?
We'll let you start because I feel like you are outnumbered. So I think you get the first swing here. I think that'd be
all right. So I'm no
big bone man.
Yeah, I'm no alien to the being outnumbered here in the debate. So so if you watched the RAWDOWN last week, we talked kind of got a conversation through the chat and everything like that, and really, Tom brought it up, I guess, when he said, he doesn't get Judgment Day. Okay, cool. So, one thing, Judgment Day, actually, to be honest with you, I don't get either, really, of them. I mean, it's more of like the spooky gimmick and, like, hey, we're like intellectually superior than you and this and the blah, 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 blah. Okay? If I was to pick one, and this is going to sound so, this is going to be like no pun intended, but I would have to give the edge to Judgment Day, right? Because a couple different reasons why. It feels to me that there is a lot of steam pushed to Judgment Day in WWE. And a couple reasons why I say that. One, like I said, edge. Okay, you got a Hall of Famer, legend. I mean, he's the man, okay? You have him as your leader. What's one big complaint that we have in WWE versus what AEW does? They don't book their legends right? They do a terrible job. But with Edge, he takes ownership, much like Malakai does, of the situation. And he's like, this is what I want. He's clearly putting everything, all his marbles in his basket right there. He's changed his tights, changed his look, gotten Alter Bridge's buddies at Alter Bridge to give him a new song, which, I mean, I'm sure the song was already out, but, it's like, look, I want this new song and this and that. Number two, okay, they've done a really good job, I think, sporadically building this ensemble of him, Damian, and Rhea, all while having a good storyline with AJ Styles. Okay. Is it great? No, it's good. I would say that. Okay, at least it's something. Versus where House of Black, we're not getting much right now. And last but not least, the fact that they added Rhea Ripley, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, WWE actually listened for her change, right? The fans are clamoring, let's get Rhea in there, let's get Ciampa, let's get Finn. You know what I expect? I completely expected on Backlash for AJ to win and for WWE not to listen to his fans, not add anybody, extend this out, do what they normally do, and they completely blew me away with that. I get, and I know Ace and everybody else is going to kind of talk about, it looks like Party City versus a cult, and I see your points on that. However, that's just a production difference. That's not, you can't put that on either of those groups necessarily.
I think you can totally put it on those groups.
Yeah.
I think the authenticity and the difference between, we're seeing Walmart versus mom and pop shop. We're seeing
Radio Rock.
We're seeing, Virgin Megastore Times Square versus the record store down on the corner ran by a couple hippies who love music. Like it seems like Malakai is entrenched. That is an extension of him. This is the difference. And this is just putting it all on the table. Edge is in my top 10 all-time favorite wrestlers. I love Edge. Mm-hmm. Love Edge. And I love the dedication he puts into his stories. But the difference to me between Judgment Day and House of Black is House of Black feels like an extension of who Malakai really is. Judgment Day seems like a story Edge has made up and is telling. It's a role he's playing.
That's exactly
where
I have to disagree with that.
House of Black feels like Malakai, feels like Tommy End, feels like Aleister Black. He's always been the guy. In his interviews with countless people, he talks about one of his fascinations as a child was world religions and the occult. This is shit that symbolism, the music he listens to, everything from the lighting to his dress, even his clothing line that he has. I think that's
Black Mass.
Black Mass, yeah. It being working at a tattoo shop and being for a time and being around those type of dudes, I know those guys. That is a legit dude who's just putting it out for us in a pro wrestling form. Him and Brody King fits like a glove. Buddy is a little like, he doesn't really.
Buddy.
Hi, buddy. But here's my big point, and then I'll let Ace go. I think when you compare these two, we can talk, it's Halloween Party City, Judgment Day. It's the true witchcraft and occult of House of Black. We can say that all day. We can say it's a microcosm of AEW, WWE. But at its root, it's a matter of how fast do you like your booking? It's a matter of how these companies book. Judgment Day. Let's look at Judgment Day. February 21st was the moment Edge came out and reflected on his Mania moments. He talked and he issued an open challenge. The next week on February 28th was when AJ came out, accepted the open challenge. Edge turned on him with the chair, attacked him. So February 28th was kind of the birth of, heel Edge. This is the first time he's been a heel since 2010. Then he goes like, I think April 3rd. So from February 28th, it's Edge. We don't know what's going on. He's a heel. April 3rd, the first member joins, Damian Priest. That's WrestleMania. And then what are we? Was it May
6th or
6th? About a month later, the third member joins. So we've got about from April to now, what's that, a month and a half? A little,
Just about, yep.
Into February to now is about a month and a half. They've created a faction that came out of nowhere. There was no real reason for Edge to turn, and they've had 2 members join within a month and a half. Counter that to the way AEW has been telling this story. Malakai debuted in July 7th of 2021. He feuded with Cody. He had his little thing with Death Triangle. And then the first member, when he was kind of tied up in his little thing with Varsity Blondes, the first member debuted on January 12th. So from July until January 12th, he kept mentioning the House of Black. We didn't know if this was going to become an actual faction or if this was just something he was saying. So Brody King joins January 12th. And February 23rd, Buddy joins.
Right?
And then and the whole time these members are joining, December 8th, he has the encounter with Julia Hart, missed her in the eye. So that's been kind of lingering in the background. So you're going from July 7th all the way to now, which is almost a year of establishing this faction versus a month and a half with Judgment Day. So do you like your booking slow burn and long, or do you like it now? Get to it now.
Right. And I was actually going to bring that up too, because that's a fair point. And I feel like part of this is, for me, I think the stuff with last week with Julia Hart, they kind of, House of Black kind of stubbed their toe, so to speak, on
They should
it.
have pulled the trigger. I think.
And then looking at what happened this Sunday, it was just like, wow, WWE gave us what we wanted. They put a woman in a faction. When have we seen that? Where 2 men and a woman are in a faction.
I think that's the instant gratification culture of just people.
Well, it's the same thing with the Wardlow and MJF. We talk and joke about it, but a lot of people want him to get his hands on MJF, and it's taken too long. He looks like a bitch in front of the security guards.
Hey,
but that's made this whole story.
Hawk.
Yeah.
I always relate that stuff to Quentin Tarantino talks about building suspense in storytelling on film. And he talks about suspense and tension being a rubber band. And you want to pull that fucking rubber band as far and slow as you can pull it until it breaks. And it's one of those things, man, like, yeah, you get impatient. You want it now. But when that shit finally happens, usually you're like, fuck, I'm glad it didn't happen until right now. Yeah. Like, the juice is worth the squeeze if you wait.
And for me, it's the authenticity too. And that's the big thing for me, is the authenticity that I feel from House of Black versus what I feel from Judgment Day. And you hit on it, that we've seen Edge as a rock star. We've seen him as a conquistador, as a having fun out there. We've seen him in different iterations, and now it seems like another role that he's playing. But with Malakai, I believe it. And I think we knew, I think another big thing is that when he talked about House of Black, and I think we always knew that Brody King was coming. And I think that's another thing too, is that we knew we were going to get Brody King. And with Judgment Day, we don't know who's going to join. And it's like they're trying to figure out who they're going to put with them.
Right.
But with this, like, it's so often authentic that we know what's coming.
Yeah.
And if you listen to the flagship show, I'm a big fan of slow burn booking. I love letting a story be told. And I'm not a fan of instant gratification.
Yeah, everything you guys said is spot on. So, I'm going to add in canned and campy is how WWE presents a lot of things. And they go over the top. It's like they're Googling, like, what would be scary? Oh, purple light, as I put it on my background. I'm sitting here in a purple light, acting like it's supposed to be scary. Meanwhile, Malakai and the crew with them, it just comes second nature. It's just who they are. It's the presentation. It's the tattoos. It's the hair. It's the moveset. They have an intimidation that Judgment Day will never have. Rhea Ripley reminds someone who just discovered My Chemical Romance the other day, and she may love that music, she may love that style, but it comes across as Hot Topic-esque when Malakai is living. He's going to the metal shows with 10 people there, discovering the bands before they become big. She has all the drippings of someone who just likes something because it's catchy, and she may be that authentic person, but the way she's being presented makes her look like a punk rock poser in a lot of ways. And that's the same that can be said about Edge. And We know he's played the Brood character, but we've seen the side of Adam Copeland that isn't this guy. We know he's not always that guy. In essence, he's a guy who lives in North Carolina who likes the mountains. We know that.
Yep.
So it's hard to
He's a
suspend.
dad. He's got a couple kids.
Yeah.
And let me just preface this. I love what you guys are all saying about Edge, because give him credit where it's due that he went out there and he didn't just rest on his laurels and go with this legacy run of, I'm the rated R superstar. I'm going to come out and do my moveset and I'm going to, collect a paycheck, have a legacy title reign. He's trying to reinvent himself in lieu of, he could have been just this legacy act, because well-deserved. He's a legend, Hall of Famer. And he's doing the Chris Jericho route where he's trying to do something different. But that doesn't mean every time you reinvent yourself that it hits. And for me, this feels very forced. And I think a lot of the stuff with him, he invests himself in the character, but you can't change the production of WWE. So no matter what you do, it's going to feel overproduced, inauthentic. It's like seeing your favorite metal band in a stadium arena where like you're sitting in a seat. You're not in the mosh pit. House of Black is the goddamn mosh pit where you're in there, you're getting sweaty, your clothes get ripped. You might get elbowed in the face. Judgment Day is just like, you saw My Chemical Romance in 2011 when they were like huge, and you saw them at Nassau Coliseum near my house where like the Islanders play.
Right.
I saw them in a club with 200 people, and they're still essentially the same band, but it just feels like the soul was ripped out of them.
Dude,
if you take House of Black and strip them down and be like, all right, what's the formula? How do they dress? How do they talk? Strip it out, you get Judgment Day. If you want the authentic nature of what is metal, what is horror, what is being a dark character who believes in witchcraft, I truly believe the dude like practices witchcraft, whether he does or he doesn't. That's who I believe Malakai is as a person. So I don't know. I'm so invested in the House of Black stuff. I've loved Malakai since his time in the Indies, all the way through the time in NXT. And he just continues to carry it over. And don't forget, this storyline is something that he's been building since his time in WWE with the Dark Father character. Was about to debut on SmackDown. He lost his goddamn eye from Seth Rollins, and he's still carrying it over with him. So the legacy of that character,
this whole faction
has been continuing.
Yeah.
So you know what? I like what they're doing with Judgment Day, because in that world, I guess it's what the best you can make out of it.
Right.
But for me, the production, it just takes away from the moment where people don't talk like that. Like anytime I watch someone get on the mic, nobody talks like that. No one says superstars. No one challenges someone to a fight like that. Compare that to watching a guy like Eddie Kingston get on the mic.
Right.
It feels like that's a dude outside of a bodega who tried to bum a Newport off of you.
Right.
And,
right.
You bumped into him. Now you're fighting him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Dude,
it's a deeper rooted issue. As I'm turning the light back on, I'm going to get the purple light off. I just wanted the effect.
Dude, but it really comes. I'm with you in the WWE universe. I'm digging Judgment Day. I like that Edge has cut these promos, rooting it in the Ministry, rooting it in the Brood. I think that's all cool. It works. But to me, when you're comparing just the care and and we've been critical of House of Black. I think they need a bigger thing to happen. I'm not saying it's all wine and roses with House of Black, just from the story perspective. But to me, it all comes down to authenticity. When you want to talk about spooky, dark type of characters, Undertaker, Kevin Sullivan, Prince of Darkness, all of that stuff, like it all comes down to authenticity. Malakai is about that life.
Yeah.
The dude from the Netherlands, you can just see from his tattoos, and these aren't just, he's a guy with tattoos. There's a lot of occultist shit in his tattoos. He cares so much about this as a passion that he's putting it on his body. Like, this guy is about that life.
Yeah. Don't talk about it, be about it. That's what Malakai is. He's absolutely invested in the lifestyle. This is an extension of himself. And we talk about the best characters in wrestling are always themselves turned up to 11. I feel like this is him even turned up to 15.
Look at Taker.
Yeah.
Taker, Taker's the same. He was living that shit during that time. Like, I think Malakai eventually will They will be wrapped up in a story, and this is the last thing I'll say on it. But this kind of ties back into our first one about Malakai being a champion, and House of Black. Will he ever get that shot again for the title, and will he feud with Punk? Will he? Some people are even saying he doesn't need a character like him. Doesn't need a title. I think a lot of people said that about Bray too during the Fiend. The Fiend doesn't need the title. Undertaker got to a point in his career where he didn't need the title. But here's the key in that phrase, for me at least. He got to the point where he didn't need the title.
Yeah.
Taker had title runs. For him to become the Phenom, he had to have those runs. He couldn't have just been a gimmick guy and had the weight that he had. He couldn't just be a gimmick guy. For them to put the streak, for them to look around and be like, when they're 18 Manias in and they're like, holy shit, Taker's never lost at Mania. When they realize that doesn't come with just, oh, he's a gimmick guy. We noticed that he hasn't lost. He had multiple title reigns. He had feuds against Stone Cold, Shawn Michaels, all of these big top guys. For Malakai to get to the point where he's a guy who doesn't need that title, I feel like he has to have that title. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's not there yet to say he's bigger than the title. I don't think he's bigger than the title.
Yeah, no. And I think it would be a case of if he gets to the point where they put him in a program to win the championship, it makes the championship feel a little bit more attainable for other guys on the roster. And I think that's what AEW has been doing right now, where you have a set of main eventers that feel like they're going to be world champion. Malakai would be one of those guys that's kind of upsets the apple cart a little bit, where it's a guy you really didn't expect to be in that lineage. I know last time I was here on the debate, this is my third appearance, and I love being on here. We talked about the next 3 AEW World Heavyweight Championship, and nobody said it was going to be Malakai Black. We said Adam Cole. We said MJF. We said Punk. We said Bryan Danielson. Malakai would be a nice injection into the main event, and he's every bit as capable of being a legitimate main event. My friend is I live on Long Island. I'm not at Dynamite for other reasons, but my friend sent me a picture of the production truck. Guess who's on it? Malakai Black. So they have an investment in the guy.
Yeah.
I think they're just waiting to
That's
pull
good to know.
He's a nice trick. I'll let you finish up and give your final point, Boney, but Malakai is a nice trick up your sleeve for Tony Khan.
It is.
Because everyone's looking, when you're thinking, oh, that's awesome. When everyone's thinking Danielson, Adam Cole, the very predictable champions, Malakai's that nice trick up your sleeve where if you want to shock some people for a world championship, that's a great guy to have up your sleeve to do that with.
Yeah, and he's booked strong enough at this point where he hasn't lost big match. He just really hasn't been involved in programs enough to not have. It's like he has stalled momentum. It's not a loss of momentum. It's just waiting to get started. He's like a train in the train yard waiting to be like, all right, put me back on the track. I'm ready to go. It's not like he's been derailed at all. I just think he's never gotten going. So you might as well just continue. I guess if you're going to wait for him to be in the main event, wait until you're ready.
Right.
And the House of Black story can be told in full, because I truly believe, and I believe in the storytelling, the long-term storytelling of AEW, that they have something planned for this. So that may just be naivety or something else. I feel like there's a plan in place for Malakai Black.
Boney, take the last word.
So yeah, I'm sorry, I was a little quiet because I had to take a phone call. But yeah. So I listened to kind of what y'all were saying as well. But just for me as of right now, and I get your point as far as the booking. I feel like it's just with House of Black slightly drawn out just a tad too much. Whereas maybe the Judgment Day is pushed in a little too much. If you have that happy meeting between the two, and part of this I think is, I'm not really necessarily too much of a conspiracy theorist on this kind of stuff where people are like, oh, they're trying to do that. I think WWE is trying to be like, oh, that's pretty cool. That's what we want to do. And I think Edge sees it too, and he's like, we could do that here. Right. And they're trying to beat AEW to the punch to some degree.
I got a question for you guys. This is completely off topic, kind of off topic. If Edge signed with AEW, if I know they were negotiating with him in that time period before WrestleMania a couple years ago, and he comes back to AEW and say he joins House of Black, do you think that he would fit in with House of Black, Or do you think it would come off as inauthentic I'm talking to Sneed and Chad, I guess, here. Would it come off as inauthentic to you?
It's a good question.
Or do you think he can fit in because of the environment of AEW?
If Edge joined House of Black?
Say in a different world, he was in AEW, Malakai comes in, House of Black is joined. Instead of Buddy, you have Brody, Edge, and Malakai.
I don't think
I wouldn't buy it.
Not at all.
I feel like if that happens, he takes the onus. He's the legend. He takes I like that House of Black is Malakai's baby.
Yeah.
This is what makes Malakai. If you throw a legend in there with him, I think it takes something away.
What happens if he like bends the knee to him immediately? Like Malakai gets the better of him and Edge like comes on board and they establish Malakai as the de facto leader.
It could be done cool.
Just real quick, another question. What if Malakai is the leader? It never gets fired. He's the leader of Judgment Day, and Edge takes that signs that deal, and he does a House of Black. Basically, as is. You got Malakai, Rhea, Damian on one side, and you got Edge, Brody King, Buddy Matthews on the other.
So Alistair pretty much just takes the Dark Father gimmick,
basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it goes down to production, though. I think AEW and WWE, from my taste, the way AEW presents characters, no matter who they are, comes across in a better for my fandom. It may not be for everybody. But I think it could be successful on either side. I think both guys are super talented and they're able to grip audiences. Let's be honest. I mean, we're talking about Edge in a disparaging way, not intentionally, just because of how great he could be. So,
you know who wins?
Conversation.
You know who wins?
The fans.
We fucking do.
We win.
True.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, both groups are great, and I'm excited to see it. I just hope. I want to see a little bit more steam behind House of Black, and maybe slow down for Judgment Day.
Yep.
All right, guys, you ready to move into our final topic of the evening?
Do it.
Let's go. All right, final topic of the evening. Should AEW introduce a trios title?
Ace, go.
I'm going to start here. I feel so strongly about this. 3,000% yes. I think there is a huge division for it. There is a unique market for it. It's never been done successfully in North America. I mean, we had Lucha Underground. That was a huge highlight of what they were doing there. Ring of Honor brought it there, but Ring of Honor never quite got to that level. We had WCW try it back in the day, gave up on it. I think it can be done in a great storytelling way. And here's why. Look at the history of wrestling with 3-man teams. You got guys like The Shield, Evolution,
the Freebirds,
Kofi Kingston, the New Day, the Wyatt family, the Bloodline, Demolition, Team Angle, the Brood, Legacy, and on it goes. So they could have been done in other ways. I think it could set itself apart from the tag team division, and that's an important distinction to make. It can't just be 3 guys tagging. It just feels like tag titles. And going back to the trust we have in AEW and how they're presenting things, they're not going to do it unless it's completely beneficial to the programming. And I think you don't want to shoehorn it in and just make it another tag team. But right now, we look at the division. I mean, we can go down the list. Team Taz. You got Jurassic Express minus Marco. Now add Christian to it. You got, obviously, Blackpool Combat Club. We talked about House of Black, the Jericho Appreciation Society, Kingston, Ortiz, and Santana, the Undisputed Era, the Elite. I think they're just waiting for the time to pull the trigger. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when it's happening. And I think that time is when Kenny Omega comes back. And I think they're going to pull it. So today, 2 hours ago, prior to us going live, and then we, full disclosure, we do tape, guys. This isn't live. So Tony Khan had confirmed that they are coming. They are made, physically made and in hand. So he ready to go. But he also did mention something interesting that I want you guys to touch on when you go into your argument about it. He mentioned other championships that are not only conceptualized, they are created. So whether they're going to be ever brought to television, he didn't say what they would be. I'm not on board with that yet, but it depends on what it could be. But very interesting. Tony Khan has been very transparent with the whole thing. We went to the first Jericho cruise. He talked about the trios titles being announced. He just said straight up today during his interview, no one really asked me flat out. So I would have just told you they were coming. But yeah, I think it could be something really unique. And like I mentioned before, it has not been done successfully in North America with all of the companies, all the great minds in wrestling. They have never been able to perfect it. And I know that, Boney, you're probably going to try to use that against me. I think it's unique enough to add it to your roster because at the end of the day, you need meaningful things for your roster to do. And right now, if you're not involved in a TNT championship, if you're not involved in a tag team championship, and of course, if you're not involved in the world title, you need something to do. And this just adds significance to a different segment of the roster that just extends it further and further. This would make me want to watch Rampage. If they're on Dark or Elevation, it would make me watch. So it has nothing but benefits for me. I think just the talent involved in these 6-man teams bring it to the next level. And imagine the matches we're going to see. Go back to Revolution, that pre-show match it wasn't Death Triangle. It was a combination of Eric Rowan and all them versus House of Black. They stole the show on the pre-show. So I'm all in.
I agree with you 3,000%. I think we should have a trios title. I think that there's so many factions in AEW that I think to be able to focus and showcase more talent, I think it would be great to have a trios title. And I think it would bring a lot of eyes to Dark and Elevation. I think that's where a lot of the matches should be. And then I think the big matches, the big title matches should maybe go on to a Dark or a Dynamite or Rampage and then pay-per-views.
So you've always said, Sneed, that you think this title should be exclusive to those shows to give them some credibility.
Yeah, I've always thought that Dark and Elevation needs those, and then the big matches go on. That way it would not force you, but it would make you want to watch Dark and Elevation to see how these storylines, because you're going to see them defended on pay-per-view. So I think it would, and with so many factions in AEW, I think we always talk about an oversaturation of roster and people not having things to do. I think this gives a lot of those people something to do.
You had significant 6 guys on a card for a championship at a clip.
Yeah.
And then the Lucha Underground piece really sells me. It tells me it can be done. And Lucha Underground did it with a much smaller budget. Just that tournament they did in Lucha Underground. If you haven't watched it, guys, go out and check that out. Lucha Underground had an amazing run there with, different characters. Pentagon got his start there. Ray Phoenix even got a young Ricochet. But yeah, they showed it can be done on a bigger stage. It would be like a fresh new idea that I'm guaranteeing there's wrestling fans that have no concept of those 6-man titles, but they've been around conceptualizing since 1981 in WCW. So they've been around and given up on.
And just to be clear, I'm not a fan of oversaturation of multiple titles. So I don't think, when Tony talks about other belts that are made, that I'm not really a fan of, but I think a trios title works.
What do you think, Boney?
So, it's not that I'm not a fan. It's just, if they bring this trios titles in, like for me, that's got to be it. No more titles.
I agree.
For a long, long, long time. I think you can do it without the titles, to be honest with you. And it's been done in the past with 3-man teams. Look at the Wyatts versus the Shield. Those were some banger matches. And there was no title on the line. Nobody had a world title. Nobody had an intercontinental. Well, I'll take that back. But it wasn't on the line. All right? Okay? Nothing was on the line. It was just, hey, gang warfare. Right? And we've seen it, a lot of times with other factions as well too. And I don't think you need a title. It kind of feels like a little bit to me, this division is not really, built for it, but it feels to me like, hey, let's get the women a tag team title. Why? Because the fans want it. Okay. But why do the fans want it? But now the division sucks. Okay. The division does suck, right? It's not there. It's not built for it. It just feels like, it almost feels like that way to me because I want stories. Let's surround something with a story around this, let's do, and like we've been talking about House of Black this entire episode, but let's do it. Let's see House of Black versus Blackpool Combat Club. It's just a fight. Why? Because Blackpool Combat Club is going to fight against this occult group. They're going to they know how to fight better than you. There's different ways you can go about doing this. Death Triangle, and Death Triangle for me, you know, but it's just because they don't build it up enough. Now that's one example. I'll give you a great example of how they can input storyline. You take Jurassic Express with Christian, and you can turn on them. That's just many different ways, and you don't need to have a title. So,
well, here I gotta take this, Ace.
Go for it.
So here's the difference. You talk about the Shield and the Wyatts, phenomenal matches. How they put on these banger matches. There didn't have to be titles on the line. The big difference in WWE doing that and AEW and the trios title situation is WWE didn't have the amount of trios that AEW has. That's like 2 squads. Like there's a legit division here. There is a legit division with guys that aren't doing anything else. To have here, I am like you guys. I hate too many belts. I hate oversaturating titles, but I think here's the big thing with that. Devaluing titles usually comes when the belt to wrestler ratio isn't justifiable. When WWE created a women's tag team title, the reason that fucking sucks is the depth and strength of the women's tag team division doesn't call for those titles. But with AEW, the ratio is more in line. There's a plethora of trios. We're not going to have 2 or 3 groups constantly rotating those titles. There is a plethora of trios in AEW. So you can't say that the depth and strength of a trios division doesn't call for it in AEW. It absolutely does. I mean, it's right there. Look at the trios.
All right, fair point.
And Ace listed them off. I have them in front of me too, but you beat me to it. But there is a historical precedent. You know, the first 6-man title in pro wrestling actually debuted in 1955 with the NWA 6-man title. It lasted all the way until 98. So that was the original title. World Class debuted theirs in 82 and it went to 88. WCW had a short little run with one. Currently in wrestling, it's mainly a Japanese Mexican belt. You know, right now, currently active, there's New Japan has a 6-man, AAA, CMLL, Dragon Gate, DDT, even ROH, but the ROH 6-man's kind of up in the air right now. We don't know what's going to happen with that, but I just think, you know, when ROH debuted their 6-man title in 2016, and they kind of promoted it as the first American promotion to have a 6-man title in 20 some odd years. Over those 6 years with ROH, they had a total of 10 different 6-man champions across 13 different title reigns. So that's 10 teams. A couple teams had multiple reigns, but that's 13 title reigns and 10 different teams holding those belts over 6 years. That's a pretty good ratio. That equals, like, if you throw all those reigns together, that equals out to about a 200+ day reign for each team. Now, some were shorter, some were longer, but that's just a median average. That's pretty solid booking. And I feel like with the weight of the trios division in AEW and how we know they typically don't bounce titles around. I know Sammy and Scorpio just did a flip-flop, which is kind of out of character for the company. But I think it lends itself to a title just by the sheer amount of trios that AEW has. And for me, man, dude, you put a trios tournament together, that's fucking exciting.
Yeah.
I got a question though, and something that kind of came to mind. So as this whole Ring of Honor purchase is evolving and whatnot, you know, there is the 6-man title out there, whatever, for the Ring of Honor. Would you like to see a Ring of Honor 6-man title or trios champion and an AEW?
No. I think that's the reason why Tony Khan hasn't
Okay.
I
Agreed.
think
Yeah.
he's going to absolve that title and make it
Okay.
an AEW title.
And
Not to mention the righteous aren't involved and they're not contracted. They're
right.
still
Well,
champions.
right. You would have to crown a new 6-man champion.
We would have saw it at Supercard of Honor if he had intentions of it. I think
Right.
this has always been an idea that he's had in his mind. Like you said, he had the titles made. He came out and said it today. They're sitting in his living room somewhere.
So
I need to see him.
So and the reason why I bring that up because a thought popped in my head. One way I can really fully accept this is if that AEW or Ring of Honor, however you call it, it crosses brands. I don't want to see that too much. I don't want to see a world champion come, Ring of Honor world champion go to on AEW show and vice versa. But that could be fun because then that can ignite some of that gang warfare that I personally like to see.
Dude, just imagine the 4 final teams in this tournament being Adam Cole and Red Dragon, Kenny Omega and the Bucks, Blackpool Combat Club, and House of Black. Sign me up, dude. Sign me up. All of those matches would be killer.
It would be great. It would be killer.
But I think one of the reasons that it doesn't have as much momentum from Ring of Honor is because of a lot of things Ring of Honor did. They did not book it as they had some momentum in the beginning. The tournament was awesome. The Kingdom wound up winning. Matt Taven leading the way there. Awesome tournament. They defeated Jay White, Kushida, and Leo Rush in a match you must see. It's not my honorable mention this week, but go out and check it out. But a lot of what they did later on in their run there, especially when like Hangman and the Young Bucks won, they were involved in different stories while holding the title and it became secondary. And I think what's going to set the AEW division apart is that if you're involved in the 6-man division, you are all in. It's not like the world champion is going to be involved and he's going to have both titles. That's important to make it feel prestigious because when you make it a secondary backdrop story where someone's just carrying you to the ring, it might as well be the AAA Tag Team Championship on AEW. It needs to feel important that, maybe Punk can be involved in it, put Punk in a 6-man tag team and have him get involved, but that's his focus. Make it just that. And
I don't want to see mishmash. I don't want to see mishmash.
But we see it could happen in the tag division. Hangman and Kenny Omega had a great run as tag champions, and I don't want to see it because the division's so settled, but even with the tag division being as stacked as it was, Hangman and Kenny provided some of the best tag.
They have a history. They had a history.
I'm with you, Boney. The only way this exists is if we keep this division with trios, concrete trios that we know.
Yeah.
Don't start mixing.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't want to see like the when we had Stone Cold and Triple H being tag champions back to that. I don't want that because right now it justifies. How awesome it'd be to see Team Taz out there with these tag titles.
If that was the case, I would say fuck these belts. The only reason I'm for these belts is because there is a division.
Matches.
There's a
100%.
division there to be had. And I gotta touch on what Boney said because I'm totally in on this. When you were talking about you just want to see, some of these trios with story. You want to see, the Christian Cage turning on Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. I think I'm so on with you about that, but I think that's the beauty of creating this division. If you have this division solidified with titles, I think there is grounds to kind of mine some good stories out of this division. There's good shit to be had there, hopefully.
Yeah, and I'm just kind of for debate's sake arguing against it because, to be honest with you, I've got a bad taste in my mouth a little bit on the TBS title because that's where the trio title should have been introduced then. And look, Jade's doing a great job with the title, and it's a good secondary title, but that's where that should have been introduced, to be honest with you. And then you build Jade up as a threat or whatever for the world title, or I don't even down the road do the TBS title. I don't know, but I have a little bit of bad taste because I wanted the trios title there, I guess, and it's like it's like there's too many. If this feels almost like now it's one too many because the TBS title is there.
I feel the same way about WWE when they brought out the women's tag titles. I'm like, why not give an intercontinental title for the women? Fuck a tag team. You don't have enough for a tag team. You have enough for a secondary title. You don't have enough for a tag team.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, I just think it's important, and again, to separate this again, to make sure that you have this as a complete separate entity, that the water doesn't get muddied at all, no crossing streams until it's established. And I think we are on a collision course. It won't be a double or nothing, obviously. It's probably going to be at All Out. we're going to get the Elite versus the Undisputed Era. It's happening.
The summer is going to be this tournament.
Those tag titles are going to be on the line where it's going to be Undisputed Era, and we're finally going to get Adam Cole and Kenny Omega come face to face, and they have to establish who's the true leader of the Elite. And I think the titles being involved just takes it to the next level, and having Kenny Omega being the inaugural champion with the Young Bucks could just raise it to the next level. And I'm as Mike Belcaster say, I'm goddamn here for it.
Yeah, the one, imagine that. I'm just going to give you a little food for thought, and then we'll close it up because we're going long. But I didn't even think of this. Everyone's talking about the Undisputed with Adam Cole, Red Dragon. You're talking about the Elite, Kenny Omega, Adam Cole. Now you've got the Forbidden Door event with the Bullet Club history getting kind of insidious in there with all of these guys. Imagine if Bullet Club enters this 6-man tournament with, say, the Good Brothers and Jay White. Yeah. And then you've got Bullet Club, Undisputed, and the Elite all in this tournament. That's a fucking story, as Mike Belcaster would say, I'm here for.
Absolutely.
I'm totally here for it.
It's a great debate. We'll see how these trios titles happen. I hope it's fun because that would be a fun tournament.
All right. So before we wrap it up, we've started adding a round robin in. So Chad, you want to throw out our round robin?
Yeah, our round robin. We've seen in the press a lot. The Nature Boy taking bumps from Jay Lethal and all sorts of cats. So yes or no, or in or out. Are you in for one more Nature Boy match, or are you out?
I'm so far out, like I couldn't be further out.
He needs to stay with his buddy Offset and go Ric Flair, go woo on a bitch. I
am under the right circumstances. I'm fucking here for it.
Wow. I'm in for it.
Give me Flair. If fucking Action Mike Jackson can go out there and take some bumps, the greatest of all time can take a bump one more time.
Flair versus Andrade.
Hit and the robe and come on.
He already bastardized his retirement, so I guess why not? Like he came back in TNA after being retired, so
him and Hogan had a bloodbath. Why not have one more match?
Him and Foley had probably the worst match in Impact I think I've ever seen in my life.
Does he have blood left? Like, does he have any blood like coursing through his veins left?
Dude was like on his deathbed for weeks. Like he's lucky to be alive. Now we're talking. The guy has 9 lives. He's a cat.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to wrap us up for the evening. Guys, go ahead and get your plugs in. Where can we find you?
At Coming Down the Aisle, at down_aisle. Check out RAWDOWN.
Make sure you guys check out at Acefield Retro on Instagram, Honor Society on Thursday, Shot of Nostalgia on Fridays.
All right. That is going to wrap us up for this edition of the Turnbuckle Debate. Make sure you guys are following us on theturnbuckletavern.com for all of your tavern needs.
Just a quick update. GCW will be back when GCW has GCW Maniac on the 21st of this month, and Broken VCR is on a bit of a hiatus because I have a crazy move going on in my life, but we'll be back.
All right. Court is dismissed.